Police say Jocelyn Horn was shot and killed by her coworker at the Cookout restaurant along Sunset Road Sunday morning.
Listen, sometimes it's okay to be the villain in the made-up story that these people got going on in their mind. Because I'm telling you right now, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Somebody just got shot inside the building. I don't know if she's dead or not. I'm in the bathroom with my manager and some coworkers. The 911 dispatcher's voice cuts through the panic. Where is the shooter now? I don't know. I heard 3 gunshots. Oh my God, he shot her, he shot her, he shot her. It's 4:30 in the morning. The Cookout restaurant on Sunset Road should be winding down, employees cleaning up after another late-night shift. Instead, Kwame Hayes is crouched in a bathroom, whispering into his phone, while his friend Jocelyn Horn lies bleeding on the kitchen floor. Just minutes earlier, she was singing while she worked, something she always did to make the long shifts bearable. Her coworkers loved that about her, the way she could turn the most exhausting night into something almost fun. But now there's blood on the floor where she used to dance between the fryer and the grill. What happened in those final moments? What could possibly turn a workplace disagreement into 5 gunshots that would leave a 5-year-old boy without his mother? Here's what we know. Jocelyn threw something at her coworker Malik, something so simple, so ordinary that when you hear what it was, you'll question everything about how far people can be pushed before they snap. But that object, that one thing she grabbed in frustration, it sealed her fate in the most brutal way possible. Welcome to our channel, where we don't just tell stories. We expose the moments that change everything. I'm your host, and if you're ready for cases that will keep you up at night questioning human nature, hit that subscribe button right now. Smash the like button if you think workplace arguments should never end in bloodshed, and share this video because Jocelyn's story needs to be heard. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from today, because this case is going to make you look at your own workplace differently. The object Jocelyn threw? It wasn't a knife. It wasn't a weapon. It was something you've probably grabbed 100 times in your own kitchen without thinking twice. And that's exactly what makes this case so terrifying. Because if a simple kitchen pan can trigger 5 bullets, then nowhere is safe. Not even the place where you clock in every day, thinking you know the people around you. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's start with who Jocelyn really was. Jocelyn Horn wasn't supposed to end up working late-night shifts at a fast food restaurant. At 19, she had her sights set on Grand Canyon University in Arizona, ready to dive into business studies with the kind of fierce determination that made people take notice. Devin wasn't just Jocelyn's son, he was her entire universe. Every decision she made, every sacrifice she endured, every late-night shift she pulled was for that little boy who looked at her like she hung the moon. At 5 years old, Seven had no idea his mom was juggling 2 completely different lives. During the day, she was the hair-braiding queen, transforming women in her makeshift home salon. At night, she became the Cookout employee who showed up with a smile even when her feet were killing her from standing all day. The math was simple but brutal. Hair braiding brought in good money, but it came in waves. Some weeks she'd make more than most people with college degrees. Other weeks, she'd count every dollar twice, wondering how she'd stretch it until the next client called. Seven needed consistency. Daycare didn't accept payment in maybe next week. Groceries couldn't wait for her next big hair appointment. Health insurance wasn't optional when you're raising a child alone. So Jocelyn did what millions of single mothers do. She worked herself to the bone. Cookout became her safety net. The job wasn't glamorous, but it was reliable. Every 2 weeks that paycheck hit her account like clockwork. The health benefits meant she could take Seven to the doctor without choosing between his wellness and paying rent. Her co-workers at Cookout quickly learned that Jocelyn wasn't your typical fast food employee. She brought an energy to that place that transformed the entire atmosphere. While other workers dragged through their shifts, Jocelyn would be singing, cracking jokes, making even the most miserable closing shift feel bearable. Kwame Hayes, who worked alongside her for about a month, couldn't get over how genuine she was. She'd offer you a ride home without you even asking, he remembered. In this industry, people usually look out for themselves. But Jocelyn? She looked out for everybody. The overnight crew became her second family. They'd cover for each other when someone's kid got sick. They'd share food during breaks. They'd celebrate small victories together, like when someone finally saved enough for a car repair, or when Jocelyn landed a big hair client. But underneath all that camaraderie, the pressure was always there. Jocelyn was constantly calculating how many hours at cookout would cover 7 school supplies. How many hair appointments would she need to book to afford his birthday party? She was building something beautiful for her son, brick by brick, paycheck by paycheck. The plan was working. 7 was thriving, her hair business was growing, and Cookout provided the stability she desperately needed. What she didn't know was that her workplace, the place that felt like family, the place that was supposed to be her safe harbor, was about to become the scene of her final moments. She wasn't just another teenager with vague college dreams. Jocelyn had a plan. She understood commerce in a way that couldn't be taught in textbooks. She could read people, figure out what they needed, and deliver it with a smile that made them come back for more. But life has a way of rewriting your story when you're not looking. In 2019, everything changed when her son 7 was born. Suddenly, Arizona felt like a different planet, and business school became a luxury she couldn't afford. But here's the thing about Jocelyn. She didn't see motherhood as the end of her entrepreneurial dreams. She saw it as fuel. While other young mothers might have felt trapped, Jocelyn discovered she had magic in her hands. Hair braiding wasn't just a skill for her. It was an art form. She could take a woman's hair and transform not just how she looked, but how she felt about herself. Her Instagram became a gallery of her work. Intricate braids that looked like they belonged in a magazine. Sew-in so flawless you'd swear the hair grew that way. Wigs styled to perfection. But more than the technical skill, Jocelyn had something you can't fake. She genuinely cared about making women feel beautiful. Her clients weren't just customers. They became her extended family. Women would spend hours in her chair, not just getting their hair done, but talking about their lives, their struggles, their dreams. Jocelyn became their therapist, their cheerleader, their friend. She had this way of making you feel like you were the most important person in the world, one client remembered. You'd walk in feeling rough and leave feeling like you could conquer anything. The money started flowing. Word spread through Charlotte's community like wildfire. Jocelyn Horn was the girl who could make magic happen with hair. She was building something real, something that was hers. But here's the brutal reality of being a single mother with a freelance business. Irregular income doesn't pay regular bills. Rent doesn't care if you had a slow week. Utilities don't wait for your next big client. And when you have a little boy depending on you, the pressure to provide steady income becomes crushing. Jocelyn needed stability. She needed benefits. She needed the kind of predictable paycheck that would let her sleep at night knowing 7's needs were covered. That's what led her to Cookout, not because she'd given up on her dreams, but because she was smart enough to know that sometimes you have to take a step back to move forward. Drop a comment if you've ever had to choose between dreams and survival. Tell us about the moment you realized that doing what you love doesn't always pay the bills. Because Jocelyn's story is about to show us just how dangerous it can be when desperation meets determination in all the wrong ways. Malik Crosby was the kind of employee managers dream about. 26 years old, reliable as clockwork, never missed a shift without calling ahead. His record was spotless, not just at Cookout, but in life. No arrests, no trouble with the law, no red flags that would make anyone think twice about working alongside him. In the fast food world, that kind of consistency is rare. Most places deal with constant turnover, people who show up late, call out sick every weekend, or just disappear without notice. But Malik? He was different. He understood that showing up was half the battle. His coworkers respected him for it. In an industry where drama follows people like a shadow, Malik kept his head down and did his job. He wasn't the loudest voice in the kitchen, wasn't the one starting conversations or cracking jokes like Jaslyn. But he was solid, dependable. That's what made March 17th so shocking to everyone who knew him. Everyone was given tempers to deal with. Kirshara McNair would later tell reporters, referring to the gun that somehow made its way into the cookout kitchen that night. The restaurant had a strict no-weapons policy. Everyone knew the rules. Everyone followed them, or so they thought. Malik and Jaslyn's relationship was typical of co-workers in a high-pressure environment. Some days they got along fine, joking around during the slower moments. Other days the stress of the job created friction. Nothing unusual, just the normal push and pull of people working too many hours for too little pay. The overnight shift at Cookout was its own ecosystem. The crew that worked those hours developed a different dynamic than the day shift. They dealt with drunk customers, cleaning duties that seemed endless, and the exhaustion that comes with working when the rest of the world is sleeping. Malik had been part of that ecosystem for months. He knew the routine, knew the personalities, knew how to navigate the workplace politics that exist in every job. He'd worked alongside Jaslyn without any major incidents, but something was building beneath the surface. The kind of tension that accumulates slowly like pressure in a pipe, until one day it finds a weak spot and everything explodes. Nobody saw it coming. Not his manager, not his coworkers, not even Jaslyn herself. Because when someone has never been violent, never shown signs of aggression, never even raised their voice in anger, you don't expect them to pull a trigger. That's what made Malik Crosby so dangerous. He was the last person anyone would suspect. March 17th, 2024. Just another Sunday night at Cookout on Sunset Road. The kind of shift that blends into all the others. Serve the late-night crowd, clean the equipment, count down the hours until you can clock out and go home. Jaslyn walked into work that evening with no idea she'd never walk out alive. The overnight crew was the usual suspects. Kwame Hayes, who'd become one of Jaslyn's closest work friends, Avance Bryant, who'd been there for months and knew everyone's routines, the manager who tried to keep everything running smoothly despite the chaos that comes with feeding drunk college kids and insomniacs at 2 a.m., and Malik Crosby, who seemed just like any other night, quiet, focused, doing his job. But something was off from the start. According to witnesses, Jaslyn and Malik had been going at it all day. Not screaming matches or dramatic confrontations, just that constant low-level bickering that happens when two people are getting on each other's nerves. The kind of workplace tension that usually burns itself out by the end of the shift. Except this time, it didn't burn out. It kept building. Normal laughing, joking, playing around. Everybody was in a good mood that night, Avance Bryant remembered. I never would have expected to wake up to this.
Everybody was in a good mood that night. I would have never expected to wake up to this.
That's the thing about workplace violence. It rarely announces itself with warning signs. One minute everyone's getting along, sharing jokes during the slow periods, complaining about difficult customers together. The next minute someone's bleeding on the floor. The restaurant closed at its usual time. The last customers stumbled out into the Charlotte night, probably heading home to sleep off whatever they'd been drinking. The crew began the familiar routine of breaking down equipment, wiping down surfaces, mopping floors. This is when restaurants become different places. The bright lights stay on, but the energy changes. It's quieter, more intimate. The crew that's been running around serving customers all night finally has time to actually talk to each other. Sometimes that's when the real personalities come out. When people are tired, when their guard is down, when the stress of the shift starts to show. Cleaning duties at Cookout weren't complicated, but they were extensive. Fryers needed to be drained and scrubbed. Grills had to be scraped clean. Floors required serious mopping after hours of spilled drinks and dropped food. Equipment had to be sanitized for the next day. It was during these closing procedures that whatever had been simmering between Jaslyn and Malik all day finally reached its boiling point. The argument started over something as mundane as who was supposed to clean what. In most workplaces, this would have been a 5-minute disagreement that ended with someone rolling their eyes and getting back to work. But not tonight. Tell us in the comments, when was the last time a work argument made you see red? When did you feel that moment where frustration turned into something darker? Because what happened next shows just how quickly normal workplace stress can become deadly. The clock was ticking toward 4:30 a.m., and Jaslyn Horn had less than an hour to live. 4:30 a.m. The cookout kitchen was almost clean, the end of another grueling shift finally in sight. But the tension that had been building all day between Jaslyn and Malik was about to explode in the most horrific way possible. What started as bickering over cleaning duties had escalated into something much more personal. Voices were raised, tempers were flaring. The kind of argument that makes other co-workers stop what they're doing and pay attention. Kwame Hayes was standing just a few feet away from Jaslyn when everything went sideways. I remember just being there in front of Jaslyn, some words got exchanged. He would later recall, his voice still shaking from what he witnessed. But here's where this story takes a turn that nobody saw coming. Malik cursed at Jaslyn. Not unusual in a high-stress kitchen environment. People say things they don't mean when they're exhausted and frustrated. But Jaslyn's response crossed a line that changed everything. She grabbed a pan. A simple kitchen pan, the kind you'd find in any restaurant, any home kitchen. Nothing special about it, nothing that screamed weapon, just a tool of the trade that happened to be within reach when her anger peaked. And she hurled it at Malik's face. The pan connected with a sickening thud, striking him directly in the face. Blood immediately started flowing. The shock of being physically attacked, the pain, the humiliation of being hit in front of coworkers, it all happened in seconds. But what came next would haunt everyone in that kitchen for the rest of their lives. Malik didn't yell. He didn't curse back. He didn't even wipe the blood from his face. He pulled out a gun. Wait, stop. Let's talk about that gun for a second. Because this is where Jaslyn's story becomes even more tragic. Cookout had a strict no-weapons policy. Everyone knew it. Everyone followed it. Except apparently Malik had been carrying a firearm to work, violating company policy in the most deadly way possible. He wasn't the type to have anything on him, his coworker Kirshara McNair said later. Nobody expected quiet, reliable Malik to be armed. Nobody thought the guy who'd never been in trouble with the law would bring a gun to flip burgers. But there it was, in his hands, pointed at Jaslyn. 5 shots rang out in rapid succession. Jaslyn Horn, the woman who sang while she worked, who offered rides to coworkers who needed them, who was building a better life for her son 7, crumpled to the floor of the cookout kitchen. The same floor she'd mopped countless times, the same kitchen where she'd laughed with her coworkers just hours earlier. Chaos erupted instantly. Kwame Hayes grabbed the manager and pulled him toward safety. Other employees scattered, running for cover, not knowing if Malik was going to keep shooting. From that bathroom, Hayes made the 911 call that would bring police racing to the scene. His voice, filled with terror and disbelief, captured the horror of watching a friend die over a workplace argument. But here's the twist that makes this case even more complex. Jaslyn Horn wasn't just an innocent victim, caught in a moment of workplace violence. In 2021, she had been charged with attempted murder in a stabbing incident. The woman who died overthrowing a pan had once allegedly tried to kill someone with a knife. Does that change how you see this story? Does it make Malik's response more understandable, or does it make the whole situation even more tragic? Because now we're not just talking about workplace violence. We're talking about 2 people with the capacity for deadly force, and what happens when they collide. Malik Crosby didn't stick around to see if Jaslyn was dead. The moment those 5 shots left his gun, he bolted from the cookout kitchen, leaving his coworkers traumatized and his victim bleeding out on the floor. While Kwame Hayes and the other survivors huddled in that bathroom, whispering desperate pleas to 911 dispatchers, Malik was already gone. Vanished into the Charlotte night like he'd never been there at all. But you can't outrun 5 gunshots. Not in today's world of cameras, cell phone tracking, and witnesses who saw your face. The manhunt lasted exactly 1 day. On March 18th, Charlotte Mecklenburg police tracked down the Malik Crosby and slapped him with first-degree murder charges. The guy who'd never been in trouble with the law was suddenly facing life in prison, possibly even the death penalty. For 221 days, he sat in jail with no bond, probably replaying that moment over and over, the moment when a kitchen pan to the face turned him from a reliable employee into a killer. But here's where the legal system gets complicated, and where this case divided an entire community. Malik's defense team had a story to tell. They painted a picture of a man who'd been physically attacked at work, who'd been struck in the face with a metal object, who'd responded in what they claimed was self-defense. And then there was Jaslyn's history. That 2021 attempted murder charge wasn't going away. The prosecution had to deal with the fact that their victim had allegedly tried to stab someone to death just 3 years earlier. Suddenly, the narrative wasn't so clear-cut. Was this a cold-blooded execution of an innocent woman? Or was this a man defending himself against someone with a documented history of violence? The community was split down the middle. Some people saw Jaslyn as a hard-working single mother who'd made mistakes in her past but was trying to build a better life. They pointed to her dedication to her son, her entrepreneurial spirit, her kindness to coworkers. To them, nothing justified 5 bullets. Others looked at the facts differently. They saw a woman who'd thrown a potentially deadly object at a coworker's face, someone whose violent past suggested this wasn't her first rodeo with physical confrontation. To them, Malik had every right to defend himself. The legal system made its choice in December 2024. Instead of facing a murder trial that could have sent him away for life, Malik Crosby accepted a plea deal for voluntary manslaughter. The judge sentenced him to 51-74 months in prison, basically 4 to 6 years, with time already served counting toward his sentence. That means the man who shot Jaslyn Horn 5 times could be walking free in as little as 3 more years. Was this self-defense or murder? Fight it out in the comments below, because this case is going to make you question everything you think you know about workplace violence and who deserves justice. Some people called it a travesty. Others called it fair. But everyone agreed on one thing: a 5-year-old boy named Seven would grow up without his mother. And that was the real tragedy nobody could plea bargain away. Seven Horn was 5 years old when his world ended, old enough to know his mommy wasn't coming home, too young to understand why. The little boy who used to watch Jaslyn braid hair in their living room, who saw her transform women with her magic hands, now had to learn what the word orphan meant. No more bedtime stories, no more singing in the kitchen while she cooked his favorite meals, no more watching her get ready for work, promising she'd be back before he woke up. Except this time, she didn't come back. The cookout on Sunset Road became a crime scene, then a memorial site. Co-workers left flowers and candles, but the tributes felt hollow. How do you honor someone's life at the place where it ended so violently? Kirshara McNair, who knew both Jaslyn and Malik, summed up what everyone was feeling. I'm praying for both families. I'm praying for Jazz's son. I hope he's doing well. He'll find peace.
Yeah, I'm praying for both families. I'm praying for Jazz's son. Hope he's doing well. You know, he find peace.
But peace feels impossible when workplace violence shatters lives. This completely. Fast food workers across Charlotte started looking at their coworkers differently, wondering who might be carrying weapons, questioning whether that argument over cleaning duties could turn deadly. The industry that already struggled with high turnover, low pay, and dangerous working conditions now had to confront an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the biggest threat isn't the customers, it's the person standing right next to you. Here's what keeps me up at night about Jaslyn Horn's case. It could happen anywhere, to anyone, at any time. Think about your workplace right now. The person who sits next to you, who you joke with during breaks, who seems completely normal. How well do you really know them? What are they carrying, literally and figuratively, that you have no idea about? Malik Crosby had no criminal history. clean record, reliable worker, never caused problems. Until the night he put 5 bullets in his coworker over cleaning duties and a kitchen pan. Jaslyn Horn was a devoted mother building a better life for her son. Hard-working, generous, loved by her coworkers, until her past violence and present frustration collided in the worst possible way. 2 people who seemed to have their lives together. 2 people who probably woke up that morning thinking it would be just another shift. 2 people whose split-second decisions destroyed multiple families forever. The fast food industry talks about customers' safety, slip and fall accidents, burns from hot oil, but nobody talks about what happens when workplace stress meets hidden weapons and unresolved anger. Nobody talks about how quickly "I'm having a bad day" becomes "I'm going to end someone's life." Cookout updated their security policies after March 17th. Other restaurants started paying attention to workplace violence prevention. But policies don't stop bullets, and training videos don't prevent people from snapping. The real question isn't whether this could happen again, it's when and where. If this case made you think twice about workplace safety, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Share this video because Jaslyn's story needs to reach people who can make changes before it's too late.